On an Arctic runway, control wasn't measured in bodies. It was measured in uninterrupted minutes. 3 armed crews had taken north, east, and west, and the moment all 3 edges went quiet, their verification clock would start. I had 1 patrol, 1 usable strip, and no safe way to challenge every position. If I chose wrong, we would preserve the runway for the men stealing it. Figures crossed markers at 3 edges. North moved toward fuel. West spread beside the approach lights. East entered the service lane behind parked equipment. None turned toward the others. I keyed the patrol channel. West led, take 2, and keep them off the approach markers. My second comes east with me. We touch both edges, break their quiet, and leave the center clean. No fire across the strip. That gives north the fuel road, the west lead said. It does. If we mass north, east closes the service lane, and west owns the approach. We can lose access for a minute. We cannot lose the runway. West dragged a maintenance sled across the approach edge. The west pair ran beside the lights, forcing them down without crossing pavement. A hard crack reached us from West Ard. 1 marker shattered, but the center line remained untouched. East watched our movement and split behind 2 machines. They weren't rushing the tower or supporting north. They were building a hold. Their spacing looked deliberate, but no signal crossed the open runway between them. Stay outside the lane. Make them turn toward us. They've already seen West move. Good. Then they know we're divided. Make division expensive. We crossed hard footing under direct pressure beside the east service lane. The nearest armed man rose, signaled once, and sent another man deeper behind the equipment. They gave ground by steps, never abandoning the lane. Their choice kept us occupied while north advanced. Kellen's voice cut through the comm fragments. He reported north at the fuel fence, and 6 trained people in reserve. Releasing them would leave the clinic heat line and tank controls without a response crew. Keep your reserve, I said. I choose where the patrol moves. You choose whether civic capacity leaves cover. We don't spend both keys on the first pressure. If they cross the fuel fence, I lose access to the valves. Can you isolate flow without damaging the strip? I can hold delivery from here. I cannot recover the road from here. Hold delivery. Keep the reserve intact. The east crew heard enough of our motion to answer. 1 man shoved a service cart into our path, while another crossed behind it. My second checked his stride. I caught his sleeve before momentum carried us into the lane. Metal scraped over grit, loud enough to cover footsteps on our right. Right side, my second warned. I turned us back instead of chasing 4. They want us inside the equipment row. Touch the edge, then leave it contested. We drove them from the first cart and marked the lane with our presence. It wasn't control. It was interruption, which was all I needed. Their final verification interval could not begin while any edge stayed actively challenged. West reported the same success. Approach markers are open, the West lead said. They fell back to the light housings. They're not coming toward us. Don't follow, keep the pavement clear. We can push them farther. And north will gain another minute cows. Break contact on my count and angle toward the center. The north crew used that minute. 2 figures crossed the fuel road while a third held the berm. They did not call east or west forward. No one shifted to help them. 3 pressures remained 3 separate shapes, yet each gained when I answered another. Kellen came back, breath heavy, but controlled. Fuel road is compromised. My staff are outside the fence near the heater shed. They can't reach me without crossing north's view. How many? Kellen counted 4 staff with the heat and communications pack. If they stayed, their position blocked my route through center. If they moved alone, North could fold them against the shed. I watched West settle behind the approach lights. East stayed fixed along the service lane. North spread at the fuel edge. The crews had not won the runway. They had made every answer cost a different piece of it. I ordered the West lead to hold at distance. My second would remain with me between center and east. Nobody would cross the runway without my call. What about the staff? The West lead asked. They hold where they are. We recover movement after we stabilize the edges. Kellen answered before anyone else. The runway is still usable. Fuel delivery is stopped, reserve remains covered, and the staff are isolated. That's the state, I said. Not a victory. The center stayed white and open. No vehicle burned on it. No body blocked it. Our pressure had broken quiet at east and west, so the final verification interval had not started. But my patrol now faced two directions. North owned the fuel edge, and Kellen's authority over fuel existed behind a road he could no longer reach. Then one of the isolated staff raised an empty hand beside the heater shed. A North gunman shifted to cover the space between them and us. The runway had survived my first choice. The fuel side had not. 4 staff stayed pinned beside the heater shed, visible but unreachable. North controlled the fuel road. East held the service lane. West crouched among the approach lights. My patrol could cross center, but every route bent around them. Through a wash of static, Kellen reported that the staff blocked my north turn, leaving them fixed-cut patrol mobility, releasing reserve-stripped trained cover from the clinic line and tank controls. Keep the reserve, I said. I'll recover the staff with the patrol. We go in bounded, bring them across, and stop. No push on the fuel edge. The West lead answered. If I leave this side, West can deepen. Leave one pair watching West, bring the other pair to center. We're buying movement, not ground. East will see the gap. They already see our limits. Make them pay attention to the wrong limit. I sent my second across center and moved north beside the markers. East tracked him, but did not pursue. 2 men shifted a cart across the service lane, then settled. West pulled another light frame into cover. Each crew reinforced its hold while we moved between them. The North gunman signaled Tay. Another closed on the shed, narrowing the staff space and forcing my choice. I told the staff to move toward the West lead's voice at center, stay together, and abandon anything that slowed them. One of them lifted the black heat and communications pack. This has our radio bridge and warming cells. Can it move with you? The shoulder frame cracked. The brace will not hold under movement. Then it isn't trusted weight. Leave it, if it catches. Kellen broke in. Astrid, that pack is our confidence between sectors. Without it, every patrol turn becomes visible. With 4 staff fixed here, we have no turns at all. The West lead reached the center marker and slapped her glove against it. The staff moved. North answered. 1 man crossed behind the barrier while the berm gunman forced us wide. We arced runway side, outside North's hold, keeping pavement clear. West led, take their left. My second, show east, we still have eyes there. I can't cover both, my second said. Don't cover C, be seen, then return. East must choose whether to chase. He ran toward the service lane. East rose behind the cart, watched, and stayed fixed. They wanted the lane more than his back. The staff reached the West lead, but the pack snagged on a low bracket beside the shed. Its borrowed brace twisted. The carrier stumbled, and 1 warming cell dropped onto the hard ground. Leave it, I ordered. The radio bridge is still inside. Leave it now. 4 people restore movement. A broken pack does not. The carrier slipped free. A Northman stepped toward the abandoned pack, and I moved between his line and the staff long enough for the west lead to pull them across. Pressure struck the shed wall behind us. Cold fragments tapped my hood. We did not turn back. At center, Kellen met the staff without bringing his reserve forward. He counted faces, checked that they could walk, and pointed them toward covered workspace. Kellen confirmed all 4 could move. The pack was gone, and the stored replacement could power one position but could not travel with the patrol. Then we stopped pretending radio confidence exists. That leaves me fewer ways to warn you without exposing people. Use position. I'll build one repeatable turn until we regain heat and comms. The west lead looked east. Repeatable means observable. I know. Unstructured movement means collision. I'll accept observation before I accept friendly separation. The staff disappeared into cover and stayed out of our fight. Their recovery opened the center route, but the cold worked into my sleeves, where the fabric had stiffened. My second's breathing scraped over the damaged channel. Words arrived in pieces, and the recovery had restored movement, nothing more. East clear, center, returning. Say again? Only static answered. I set the rotation aloud. My second would leave east, cross center, check west, and return along the same visible line. The west lead would hold until he arrived. I would hold center and north sight. Nobody would improvise a crossing. Kellen replied, "That preserves patrol contact. It also advertises when east loses pressure." I know the cost. We ran it once. My second left the east service lane, crossed the open center, touched the west lead's position, then turned back along the same markers. North deepened around the fuel edge instead of interfering. West kept its hold. East did not chase. Boro stepped into view behind the east cart as my second began his return. I recognized his broad stance and pale hood from the first east movement across the runway. I could not know what he concluded. I could see where his attention settled. Not on my second's face. Not on his weapon. On the interval between his departure and return. "He's counting the rotation," the west lead said. "He can see it," I answered. "That's enough." Our mobility had returned. The staff were clear, and the runway remained usable. But the heat and communications pack lay inside North's hold. Fatigue narrowed our choices. And our safest movement now repeated across open ground. At east, Boro stayed behind the fixed cart. He watched my second leave again. This time, no one followed. My second left east on the next rotation. Boro waited until he crossed the center markers, then moved, and 2 east men came around the fixed cart. They ignored my second's back and cut toward the covered workspace. One of the recovered staff had stepped across a narrow gap between shelters. He froze when they changed direction. "East moving," the west lead called. 2 toward staff, Boro still behind the cart. "Hold west," I said. "North stays in your sight, my second returns on the same line. He's past center. East will reach the staff first." "I know. Don't open west to solve east." The north crew pulled the abandoned heat and communications pack behind the fuel berm. West shifted a light frame and widened its view across the approach edge. Neither moved toward Boro. They protected what they already held. East had timed the gap cleanly enough to force the choice, but I ran from center toward the east service lane. The staffer backed against a service door, but one east man blocked his path to cover Dole. The second stayed outside, watching the route my patrol used to return. "Staff, drop low and move only when I touch the door. He has my sleeve. Keep your feet. Don't fight the pull. Boro called from behind the cart. Your patrol left east. The next return comes too late. You have one edge, I answered. Not my response. Your response has a distance, pit. I can see it. The nearest man dragged the staffer away from the door. I had two options. I could wait for my second and preserve spacing, or close alone before East carried a living person behind its hold. Waiting protected the patrol. Closing protected the boundary here. I closed. The outside man stepped across my line. I struck his shoulder with mine and lost balance on the hard footing. We hit the side of a low-ground cart. Its frame jumped sideways, and the front wheel folded against a marker base. The impact drove the air from my chest. Astrid, Kellen said through broken static. Ground unit moved. I can't see its front line. Damaged at East Inting. Keep reserve covered. I have 4 ready 1. I can send them to the staff door. No. East wants the response count. Keep your people out. The man between me and the door reached again. I caught his coat and used the damaged cart as a barrier, not a weapon. He pushed. The frame rolled half a turn, then jammed. Metal pressed my hip. Breath became work. The captured staffer twisted toward the door. The second Eastman tightened his grip and tried to pull him behind the equipment row. Door now, I said. The staffer dropped his weight. I shoved the jammed cart enough to open a narrow path, then caught the staffer's free arm. The Eastman held on. For several seconds, nobody owned the movement. My second's boots struck the center markers behind me. 2 seconds out, he called. Stay outside the lane. Cut off their return, not their bodies. West is exposed from here. Then finish fast and go back. Boro raised one hand. Only East reacted. The man holding the staffer released him and stepped toward the cart. His partner turned to protect their withdrawal. North kept the fuel edge. West kept the approach edge. No one crossed to help Boro. My second reached the outside line. The staffer slipped through the service door and slammed it behind him. Freedom held. Staff is clear, I said. My second, return center. West lead. Confirm your edge. West still fixed, she answered. They used your turn to move another frame. I need my pair back. You get them now. Kellen's voice carried a scrape of interference. Ground cart has a folded wheel and a cracked support arm. It will not carry patrol weight. Reserve remains covered. Can it move empty? Not without spending people in East's view. Leave it consolely? My second backed toward center while facing East. The 2 East men did not follow. They returned behind the cart with Boro. He had lost the staffer, but he watched my second cross the same markers again. He saw departure, intervention, and return, the West lead said. I know. Then change the rotation. We can change the line, we can't change the distance between 3 held edges. What did he learn? That we answer a live capture before we protect a ground unit. That reserve does not move automatically. That East can pull us off center for one short window. North and West stayed home. They stayed capable. That is not the same as staying home. The distinction mattered, but it answered nothing final. Boro might have held central authority that the other crews ignored under pressure. He might have been competing with them. He might have needed only his own edge. I had behavior, not a model. Kellen spoke again. Losing the ground cart removes our fast counter window. If East pressures twice, the second answer arrives on foot. And Boro knows the first answer's timing. Do you want reserve shifted closer? No. A reactive shift gives him another count. Keep the remaining reserve where its civic work stays covered. That preserves capacity. It also preserves the pattern he just tested. The staff remained free. East alone had answered Borrow's signal, while North and West strengthened their own holds. We had stopped the capture without surrendering the runway. But the damaged ground cart sat crooked beside the East service lane. Our next response would be slower, and the small counter window we had owned was gone. Borrow looked from the cart to the center markers. He had tested the distance. We had confirmed it for him once more. Borrow used the answer before we could build another one. My second had regained center when movement appeared along the north fuel edge. An East figure pushed a trolley into sight, suggesting a transfer. North shifted behind the berm, but nobody crossed over. North is changing, the West lead said. Do we turn? Hold West, I need a confirmed fuel move. Through static, Kellen reported the trolley and threatened route. He could not confirm its use, only that waiting would close access. The damaged cart blocked the shortest East counter window. Turning north would leave the East lane thin. Holding center protected East, but treated Kellen's warning as an unproved feint. Borrow's voice reached us from East. Protect the fuel edge, Sergeant. Operations can wait one more turn. My second saw the invitation. I saw Borrow, setting the time for our choice. Kellen cut across us. I can release fuel and 6 reserve now. With your patrol committed East, we can contest operations before the 3 edges settle. The release would leave 1 bounded reserve posture for civic failure, less fuel. And enough people to protect the clinic line, but not retake another edge. If the trolley proved real, Kellen accepted losing fuel. East operations mattered more than fuel. His choice was his to make. Mine still had to follow. I need decisive effect before I commit the patrol, I said. We have 1 damaged ground unit, a visible cadence, and no proof North will stay fixed if we turn East. Kellen warned that proof would not come while they controlled observation. I wanted one more response. He thought the move could begin final verification. I saw both keys spent into a feint, diminishing fuel, reserve position, and center. Astrid, I can spend the fuel. I need to know whether your patrol is coming with it. Not yet. I do not have enough East effect to spend the patrol with it. Kellen paused only long enough to look across the runway. Then I will release a smaller posture inside my authority. 2 reserve, 1 fueled unit. Operations side only. I preserve 4 people for civic failure. That move cannot take East alone. It may keep operations contested long enough for you to decide. It may spend fuel and show Borrow exactly what remains. I know what it costs. He could spend his reserve, people bet. I could still refuse the patrol. The gap between those decisions was exactly where Borrow had put us. West lead, hold your edge, I said. My second soar too low, stay center north until the trolley declares. And East? He asked. I watch Kellen's posture. If it creates a decisive opening, we commit. Kellen's smaller reserve moved from cover. Engine vibration traveled through the runway. 2 trained people advanced beside the fueled unit without crossing center. Their movement challenged outer operations, but did not close Borrow's lane. East absorbed them. 1 East man rolled the fixed cart deeper into the service lane. Another pressed Kellen's people away from the operations doors. Borrow stayed where he could see center, north, and the returning patrol line. They are giving ground by feet, Kellen reported. Operations door remains closed to us. I need the patrol key now. North stopped moving the trolley. It had never reached the pump side. Feint confirmed, my second said. Turn us East. I watched west. Its crew had widened behind the approach lights. North remained firm at the fuel edge. Neither reinforced Boro. They might expect east to hold alone, or want our patrol committed before they moved. Both explanations still fit what I saw there. Astrid, Kellen said, my smaller posture cannot stay. Commit or I pull them. What is your remaining fuel after this pass? Below the margin I wanted, above immediate civic failure. What is the east opening? Narrow and closing penned. Then pull them. I will not commit the patrol into a closing effect with two edges intact. Understood. I'm pulling them. No. He turned his people back. East followed just far enough to make the retreat physical, then stopped at the operations line. The fueled unit shuddered as it crossed rough ground. Its vibration thinned, recovered, and carried away fuel without buying position. Operations access lost, Kellen said. 2 reserve returned. No decisive effect. Fuel spent. Any injuries? None. Capacity is smaller. Boro stepped past the fixed cart. North holds fuel. West holds approach. East holds operations. Your patrol is outside all 3. The runway is still usable, I said. Usable is not contested. We can contest it again. Not before this interval starts. The North crew stayed behind its berm. West remained among the approach lights. Neither filled the space East had opened during Kellen's withdrawal. They did not need to. East closed its own operations line, while my patrol remained uncommitted. West lead. Report, I said. West approach edge quiet. They are watching center, not moving east. My second? North fuel edge quiet. Trolley stopped. No cross support. Kellen's voice followed. Operations is uncontested. All 3 functions are held. The physical condition is met. I had wanted one more response before spending the patrol. Boro had used that need as the response. Commit now? My second asked. No, a late turn gives East our remaining distance without breaking the condition. Hold center. Preserve the next choice. The interval? Running. Boro lifted his radio but kept his eyes on us. The final verification interval begins now. Challenge an edge or let it run. I could not verify his last claim, and I did not need it. The runway had gone quiet at all 3 edges. The first final verification interval was running under the condition we already knew. When Kellen had spent fuel lawfully. His smaller posture had failed without my patrol. Boro had caused the incomplete move by showing me exactly the uncertainty I was least willing to buy. North had not helped East. West had not helped East. Both had preserved their own holds while Boro took operations. That non-support could still mean discipline, rivalry, or separate necessity. I had no unique answer. I had only the cost of waiting for one. The final verification interval was already running when I committed East. Patrol. East service lane. We deny movement there. If my model is wrong, operations still loses its clean route. My second looked toward North. And the other edges? They get the choice I kept avoiding. We crossed before Boro could set another invitation. The damaged cart leaned against the East marker base. Beyond it, 2 East men had opened the operations doors and moved service loads through the lane. That traffic made the lane useful, not merely informative. They're bringing operations forward, the West lead reported. West is watching you. Keep West in sight. Don't answer East for me. Boro moved behind his fixed cart. You waited for certainty, Sergeant. Now you spend distance. I'm buying a closed lane. My second shoved the damaged cart clear of the marker base. The folded wheel dragged, leaving its frame across half the service lane. East answered with bodies. One man braced the frame, while another pulled a service load toward operations. I drove the load sideways with my shoulder. Its weight turned and blocked the remaining opening. An East man caught my coat and pulled me against it. My second broke the pressure, letting me step free. The lane stopped carrying work. East lane denied, I said. Hold the outside edge. Make Boro spend people here. Kellen's reply came through broken static. Your heated work shelter is open behind center. East can reach it from the equipment row. How much do we lose if they take it? Warmth, dry batteries, and the nearest protected rest point, the clinic heat line, remains separate. Then it is a position, not a life. Boro raised his hand. 2 more East men left operations and turned toward the work shelter. He stayed beside the blocked lane, directing his people. He did not call north or west. East already occupied him. Shelter pressure, my second warned. We can pull back and keep it. If we pull, the lane opens. If we stay, they take our heat. They take the shelter. They do not fix us inside it. The choice hurt before the cold did. We had used that shelter between rotations, but its heat had kept hands useful and batteries alive. But defending it would turn the patrol toward a room while Boro reopened operations behind us. Abandon the shelter, I ordered. Take what is already on you. Nobody turns back. East reached the door and forced our remaining work crew out toward center. The crew carried 1 battery case and left the rest. Warm air rolled through the open doorway, touched the runway, and vanished. My gloves already felt thinner. Boro remained at the lane. Boro stayed with East operations while his own people went after the shelter. He was spending East to hold East, not calling north or west to rescue the lane. That still did not tell me how the 3 crews fit together. A hard metal strike sounded from North 1. Almost with it, West pulled 2 light frames into a tighter line beside the approach edge. Marker 2A, the West lead said. West just re-squared at 2. Kellen answered. North re-squared fuel at the same moment. No movement between sectors. North and West restored their own functions at the same marker, while Boro remained occupied at East. Neither waited for him, and he directed neither crew. The timing mattered more than any order I had not heard. An isolated Northman appeared beyond the fuel boundary. He had been shifting the abandoned trolley when his crew closed the gap behind him. My second saw him at the same time. North left 1 outside. Do they cross for him? No, 2 remain behind the berm. 1 holds the fuel road. The isolated man backed toward the boundary. His own crew did not open it. Recovering him would have weakened the North condition during the running interval, tune 2-300. They chose the condition, mean. His crew left him exposed rather than loosen the fuel edge. He called across center. Keep your patrol east until the next marker. I stay outside north, and your people leave me room. This concerns north only, I said. You remain outside the fuel edge. If your crew crosses for you, the bargain ends. North agrees to that. You speak for North? For this crossing, yes. Nothing else. His crew stayed behind the berm. He remained exposed rather than weaken their hold. The bargain protected only a North problem. It explained nothing about West, East, or the running interval. The bargain went no farther than North, and his own crew still would not open the boundary for him. East shoved at the lane block again, forcing us to work for every foot of denial. Cold had settled into my hands, and the open shelter behind us no longer offered a place to recover. Across the runway, West stayed squared at approach, while North kept its man outside the fuel boundary. Boro was still occupied with us at East Hoove. The pattern had survived pressure in every direction. Each crew protected its own sector, yet North and West re-squared on the same marker, while Boro was tied to East. I could not tell who had arranged it or what anyone had been promised. I knew enough for action. Their obligations were separate, but the interval bound them to the same clock. Kellen, can we act on that? Enough to act on. It tells us nothing about whatever agreement put them here. That is enough. I'm selecting North. Then the affordable release is 1 fueled carrier and 2 reserve. To screen center, 2 reserve remain with the clinic line. 1 carrier pass puts your patrol at North before the next marker. Cost? The pass takes fuel below the medevac margin. No powered medical departure remains within allowance. Hold the release until my call. North? I know. The East service lane remained denied. Boro and his people stayed tied to it. North and West held their own functions without coming east. And the isolated Northman waited outside his boundary under a bargain that reached no farther. The first final verification interval still ran 209. We had lost the heated shelter, my nearest rest point, and more strength than the lane looked worth third. Cold settled into my hands. Position had become distance again. But North was no longer a theory. It was the obligation we could break next. I called Kellen before the next sector marker. Release the carrier. Put 2 reserve on the center screen. I am committing the patrol North. Confirmed, Key said. 2 reserve remain on the clinic line. Carrier use consumes our medical departure allowance and leaves fuel below its margin. Your fuel choice. Made. Your target. Turig. North. The carrier moved from cover with the tired vibration I had heard at East Wunda. Kellen's 2 reserve advanced beside it, then held near center, where West and East remained visible. My patrol used the movement to close open distance toward the north fuel edge. The isolated Northman watched us turn. Our bargain ends if your crew crosses for you, I told him. It also ends when I challenge North. Then it ends now. He moved toward the berm. His crew opened no path. They stayed behind the fuel edge, protecting the fixed condition even as one of their own became the nearest pressure point. The pattern we had just watched held again. Prediction was not certainty, but it was enough to spend movement. Patrol stays north, I said. Do not turn for west. Do not chase east noise. We break the held function and secure the people inside it. My second heard the cost. If west crosses center, Kellen owns the screen. We own north. The carrier crossed the exposed stretch, then slowed on hard footing beside the fuel road. North reacted. 2 men left the berm and drove toward us, while another pulled the isolated man behind a low barrier. They compressed around their obligation, while keeping the fuel edge. Metal struck the carrier's side. Its engine note dipped, recovered, and kept moving. I stepped away from it before North could fix the patrol around a machine. Carrier clear after this pass, I ordered. Reserve hold center. Patrol continues on foot. Kellen answered through a gap in static no. Carrier will clear. Fuel is now below the medevac margin. I own that loss. Medical departure cannot use the planned fuel allowance. If we need it, departure waits or another service loses movement. West shifted behind the approach lights. East struck our abandoned lane block, trying to reopen operations. Neither crew crossed toward North 1. They protected the functions that could support a new interval if ours failed. North used that non-support rationally. Its people tightened around the fuel boundary and spent our time Two praise. One man shoved the trolley toward us. Another pulled the isolated member behind the barrier. The third stayed at the fuel road under direct pressure. They are holding the condition, my second said. Then take the condition away. We moved the trolley far enough to clear our path, but North stepped into the opening. A body hit my left side and drove me against the berm. I lost air, footing, and sight of my second for one beat. Gravel pressed through my coat. Astrid, report, Kellen said. Still moving. Keep reserve center. West is leaning toward them. Do they cross? Not yet. My second pulled the nearest Northman away from the fuel road. I regained my feet and closed on the barrier. The isolated member rose to meet me, choosing his cruise position over escape. We collided against the low frame, then separated. He reached North again. I caught his coat and turned him away from the boundary. The remaining North pair faced two demands. They could recover him and open the fuel edge, or preserve the edge and let us isolate him. They preserved it. One controlled, my second called. Two still at fuel. Secure him outside the boundary. I take the edge with the rest. No hidden route opened. No signal stopped North. We gained ground in short, costly changes. The patrol pressed one person away from the fuel road, held another outside the boundary, and forced the last man from the berm. Every step took strength we would not recover before West and East moved again. The North lead tried one final local bargain. Leave the fuel road and we remain North. Your interval challenge can come from East. East is not this action. Then West will use your absence. That cost is mine. He held until my second reached his outside line. Then the North position folded physically, not politically. We separated the three men from the fuel edge, controlled their movement, and secured them beyond the road. None could restore the North function. North captured mine, I said. Fuel edge under effective defender challenge. Kellen's voice broke, returned, and held. North is closed. The first final verification interval is void. Confirmed. The interval had failed, but the human threat had not. We had erased their accumulated quiet, not their ability to build another attempt. East forced our lane block aside, while we secured North. Borrow's crew pushed back toward the operations doors. West left part of its strongest cover and moved closer to center, where Kellen's 2 reserve now stood between it and the space East needed. Latest start? I asked. Not past, Kellen said. West and East still have time for one compressed restart. My 2 reserve are relatively fresh, but they can close one sector only. Keep them facing west. West will have to expose itself to contest us. The West lead reported movement along the approach edge. They are coming out from the lights. They want center before East finishes restoring operations. Hold them in sight. Do not close. My second checked the secured North crew and looked across the runway. We broke one obligation. 2 remain. And they know the first interval is gone. So they move faster. So do we, when we can. The carrier reached cover with less fuel than medevac departure required. My patrol stood north, depleted and farther from the remaining fight. West left protection to challenge Kellen's reserve. East compressed around Borrow near the operations doors. North was captured. The first final verification interval was void. Latest start had not passed. The remaining crews were already shaping one last restart. West moved first. They came out from the west approach edge in 2 groups, leaving the light housings that had protected them. Kellen's 2 reserve stayed near center. From north, I could see the gap opening between West and the cover it had abandoned. West is committed, Kellen said. They're coming for center. Take only West. I'm turning the patrol east enough to pin Boro. I'll keep West in sight. You'll be stretched. I'm already stretched. You have one closure. Use it where you own it. East saw us turning and pushed harder around the operations doors. Cold air scraped my throat as we angled east, boots slipping on grit. Boro stepped clear of the equipment row. You broke north and spent your ride. West only needs to hold you still. He doesn't need me, I said. He needs your people. He has his own trees. West crossed farther from the approach lights. That exposure was the price of reaching Kellen before East lost its chance to rebuild Quiet Tort. The West crew could stay protected, or it could block the reserve. It could not do both. Kellen's people moved to meet them. Across the runway I could not see hands or faces, only direction and loss of ground. Kellen's reserve stopped the West advance near the center markers, and the West line bent away from East instead of driving through. Their spacing widened as they tried to make two defenders cover too much. Kellen, West is widening. I see it. Do not chase the outside man. Close the function, not the distance. That is my decision, Astrid. It is. I kept moving east. Boro sent 2 people toward the service lane, while another stayed at operations. They were trying to restore traffic and keep us from fixing east in place. My patrol reached the outside line before they could reopen the lane completely. Patrol holds east, I said. Nobody turns west unless Kellen calls loss of control. My second looked across the runway. West is closer to center than cover, and that is why Kellen gets one chance. The last carrier sat behind Kellen's line, low on fuel but still our only powered ground movement. One West man broke toward it when the reserve compressed the center space. He did not reach Kellen. He reached the machine. Metal struck moonlight. The carrier lurched against a marker base. Its engine climbed once, then fell into an uneven idle. Kellen, U.S. Carrier. I know. Steering is gone. It is staying there. Can it move clear? Not without pulling reserve off West. Then it stays. West tried to use the distraction, and one man drove toward Kellen's left, while another cut back toward the approach edge. Kellen's reserve did not split. They held the center line, forcing West to choose between retreating to cover and continuing without it. West kept coming, giving up the protection it had left behind. That was the mistake their own obligation required. Kellen stepped forward with his reserve. I watched one West man lose the center line and another get turned away from the approach edge. The third hesitated between them. West lead, I called. Report only what I cannot see. They're off the lights. Kellen has 2 contained. Third is outside the approach edge. Kellen answered over her behind. I have the third moon. The last West figure stopped short of center, and the approach edge behind him no longer had anyone moving to restore it. Confirm West. West captured, 3 secured. Approach edge under our control. Say it once more. West is complete. Only after West was complete did I turn fully east. Boro had been using our divided attention. With West gone, there was no second pressure across center and no crew left to reopen north. East still held operations, but it held them alone. He left the equipment row and moved straight toward the operations doors. Open the lane, he ordered. Now, they cannot restart their reserve in time. My second looked at me. He's restoring the function himself. Then East stays isolated. Nobody chases him past operations. Two Eastmen pushed at the blocked service load, 200. A third moved to cover Boro's approach. We closed the outside space instead of following him inside. Boro shouted, "You have west. You have north. You still need me out of operations before the next quiet. I need you unable to restore it." He moved faster. So did I. The distance closed in the open space beside operations. Boro came straight through me rather than give up the doorway. I caught the impact high on my left side and lost 2 steps before my boots found grip again. He kept moving, using the few seconds before my second could seal the lane. He tried to pass me on the operations side. I stayed between him and the doorway and forced him to keep changing direction. My second closed the lane behind us, so the rest of East could not pile into the same space. Boro checked once, then drove forward again. "Boro, stop moving. You do not have East." "Not yet." He drove forward again. I gave ground until he had to turn with me, then held the operations line while he spent more strength trying to break back across it. We stayed upright, slipping and recovering on the grit, neither of us gaining the doorway. One Eastman started toward us. "Hold your line," my second warned him. "West is secured. North is secured. You cross, you leave operations uncovered." The man stopped. Boro heard it and made one more attempt at the doorway. His first step shortened, the second nearly failed, and he still forced a third. By then, his balance had gone with his strength. He dropped to one knee, pushed himself up once, and could not keep moving under his own weight. I closed the remaining distance and kept him away from operations until my second could join me. Together, we brought his movement under control and secured him on the open side of the lane. "Boro is alive," I said. "He cannot continue movement. Secure him here." My second confirmed the restraint and shifted back toward the remaining East line. Boro breathed hard, but stayed conscious. East can still hold. Then they can choose what that costs. I stood and faced the 3 East men still around operations. North was gone. West was gone. Boro could no longer restore the lane, and my patrol held the outside line and the service route remained blocked. They could keep resisting, but no movement they made could rebuild all 3 functions. "East," I called. "Step away from operations and keep your hands visible. The restart path is finished." No one moved. My second held position. We did not rush them. We did not need another close contact to prove the point. One East man looked toward Boro. He gave no order. Another looked west and saw Kellen's reserve holding the approach edge. The third looked north, where the secured crew remained outside fuel. The first man stepped back from the operations door. The second followed. The third waited longest, then moved away from the service lane and lowered what he held. "East surrendering Bray," my second said. "Secure them before we call it." We closed the remaining distance carefully and separated them from operations. No one crossed to help Boro. No one moved toward west. No one reached north. Kellen came over the channel. West secured. Carrier disabled. Reserve intact enough to hold prisoners, not to open another fight. North secured. Boro alive and secured. East surrendered and secured. The runway? I looked across it. The strip was open. The center markers remained clear. Nothing burned on the pavement. The last carrier sat crooked and useless behind Kellen's line. "Usable crown," I said. "And we are out of powered margin. All human threats? Closed." The word did not restore fuel, warmth, distance, or strength. It only made the next accounting possible. Kellen met me near center, after the prisoners were separated, and watched. North was captured and secured. West was captured and secured. Boro was alive, unable to continue, and secured. East had surrendered and was secured. I said the statuses once. After that, they became work. The runway remained open and usable. No aircraft came down the approach, and none would solve what remained. The disabled carrier sat where West had damaged it, angled beside the center markers. Its front end no longer tracked straight. We had fuel below the medevac margin and no powered ground movement we could spend without taking capacity from something else. Kellen looked toward the clinic line. Medical departure is delayed. I can keep heat, basic power, and one emergency reserve. I cannot fund the planned departure and normal airfield movement. How long? Long enough that I am not going to invent a promise. That is an answer. It is not a useful one. It is useful if it is true. He rubbed both gloves together, then looked at the fuel side we had just recovered. I'm putting fuel on ration immediately, he said. Clinic heat stays protected, tank controls stay staffed. No routine vehicle movement, no powered patrol, unless the runway itself is threatened again. Your domain. My cost. The words landed differently than they had before the first interval. I had treated his expenditure as part of a decision I could delay until my own certainty improved. I had been wrong about the part I controlled. The choice before the first interval gave Boro his opening, I said. You released what you could. I held the patrol back. Kellen watched the empty approach. Kellen, you held the patrol. I spent fuel on a posture that could not close east. I know. We both have it. You thought it might buy time. Less than I priced or less. And holding the patrol was mine. Kellen gave a short nod. Neither of us asked the other to make it cleaner. A crew member crossed from the clinic side and reported that the planned medical departure could not launch on the remaining allowance. Whoever needed that flight stayed out of sight. The runway worked, but the community could not yet use it for the departure it had expected. Kellen pointed toward the carrier. That stays dead until we can spare people and fuel to move it. So, patrol walks. Patrol walks. Reserve. Holds prisoners. Clinic line. And the minimum airfield function. Nothing extra. The wind moved loose grit across the runway. Without the carrier engine, the airfield sounded wider. Boots, doors, short radio calls, and the low mechanical hum from protected equipment carried farther than they had during the fight. My second handed me the patrol count. Everyone could continue, but nobody had enough left to pretend the distance was free. I looked east first. The service lane was closed to hostile movement. Then west. Kellen's reserve held the approach edge without pushing beyond it. North remained under defender challenge, and the fuel road was ours again. The strip itself was still clear. Kellen said, if the sponsor tries another approach, we can contest the runway. We cannot chase beyond it. We do not need beyond it tonight. You are assuming they stop. No, I am limiting the next decision to what we can still do. He gave one short nod. It was not approval. It was enough coordination to keep working. I tightened my gloves and started toward the east service lane on foot. My legs felt heavy, and the old north impact pulled at my left side with every longer step. Behind me, Kellen called, Astrid. I stopped. Your patrol route? North, center, east, then west if the distance still buys something. No powered support? I know. No spare heat pack? I know. Then shorten it if the people start failing. That remains my call. It does. I kept walking. The runway was usable. Picture des and the aircraft was absent. Medical departure was delayed. Fuel was rationed, and the carrier would not move. My next patrol crossed the open center on foot.